All good things must come to an end. That's what we all thought when we heard that the Sega Saturn was coming soon to America. The Sega Genesis was a dying system, out with the old hardware, in with the new generation. But Sega wanted to keep the Genesis alive. They wanted to take it to the next level, if you know what I mean. And so on December 3rd, 1994, from Sega's asshole, they fired a fart of a peripheral in the shape of a mushroom cloud. It's the Sega 32X. Last episode, I called for the forecast, and it delivered. This is the mushroom cloud on its own. You'll see it in its final form in a moment. The 32X can fit in the palm of the hand and looks, as I described, a mushroom cloud. It's very black, only having the labels of Genesis 32X. Here is its own cartridge slot, and on the back are some connectors. Very plain, indeed. So what does the Sega 32X Mushroom Cloud actually do? Well, it was meant to expand the Sega Genesis even more by adding more bits, essentially making it a 32-bit console. It seems like a good idea on paper, but if all of you knew your history, you wouldn't be here. This peripheral is the biggest commercial failure for Sega, and it pretty much was a way to get more money. But the Saturn was coming around the corner, so some weren't fooled into buying this waste of time. But others were, hence this review. Now let's get this son of a butt fart hooked up. The 32X hooks up to the cartridge slot of a Sega Genesis, like so. Kids, this is what rape looks like. I mean, with all these peripherals, you'd think the Genesis would be crying in agony. But I guess it's getting more power. Fair exchange. Anyway, the 32X is better with the Model 2 Genesis, because with the Model 1, you'll need to get special clips to put inside the Model 1 cartridge slot. Which is why I have a Model 2 Genesis for the sole reason of having a 32X. I blew more than $200 for this whole gangbang. Now we need to hook it up to everything. Like the Sega CD, the 32X requires its own power supply, which makes 3 for the full thing overall. Try not to trip over all these wires on your floor, because it's gonna be a clusterfuck of electrical power lines. But you're not through there, because if you try to play a game, you'll notice some missing graphics, which is why you'll need this special wire, which connects the 32X to the Genesis for graphical support. Now this is making me think of the Borg from Star Trek, and the Genesis is being assimilated into something even more shit-tastic. The 32X has its own library of games, which makes up 40 titles altogether. The interesting thing is that 6 of them must be used with the Sega CD, which means 6 games use both peripherals to create the ultimate collab of CD 32X crap, to say the least. There are good quality titles like Doom and Knuckles Chaotix, but games like Corpse Killer are to be left behind. The Sega Borg Mushroom Cloud 32X is Sega's worst investment, and they knew how bad it was that it was cancelled almost a year later to focus on the Saturn. If you're thinking of getting a 32X for yourself, I honestly don't blame you. It's actually an interesting system for what it's worth. But just make sure you have all the right requirements to make your 32-bit Sega Genesis less shit-tastic. Now, Sega is probably more guilty of commercial failures than any other video game company. But every company has had their fair share of failures, even the big dogs, like Nintendo. And on the next episode, we'll have our first look at a Nintendo console and take a very big step into the world of virtual reality. If you think I missed anything, please leave a comment. If you like what you see, leave a like. If you think others could get knowledge out of this, share this video. And if you want to see more, go ahead and subscribe. Now if you'll excuse me, nostalgia is calling.